So welcome back, everybody. We continue tonight where we left off last week, the last class of chapter 33. And we were holding in the original text a bit, pretty much two-thirds into the chapter, which is V'zeu she'omar b'emunasa yichya. And this is what Chavakuk, the Navi, established when he said that Tzadik be'emunasa yichya. So again, it's about two-thirds, a little over two-thirds into the chapter. So as we recall the quote of the Alter Rebbe from Chavakuk, in the spirit of the message of this chapter 33, now the Alter Rebbe mentions the Maimer Azal in Parshas Tanchuma, in Medrash Tanchuma, the famous Maimer Azal, Nis'ave HaKadosh Baruch Hu Li'yislo Yidire B'Tachteinim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a desire that this world become a home, a pleasant home for Hashem. And Alter Rebbe explained primarily when we say Dira B'Tachteinim, even though overall the message is the Yid descends in the Tachteinim, meaning to say he descends in this very inferior and physical world. His neshama invests in a body, and in that body, or together with that body, he serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning to say not soul divested from body, not soul divested from the material. It invests in a physical body, deals with the material world, yet takes the material world and transforms it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, primarily by the learning Torah and doing Hashem's mitzvahs, which is about taking the physical and transforming it into the spiritual. The significant majority of our mitzvahs are and deal with the physical, are all about and deal with the physical. Tzitzis coming from wool, tefillin from parchment, even the Sefer Torah, the holiest object which we have coming from the parchment of an animal, and so on and so forth. And by extension, Kol Masech L'Shem Shamayim B'chol Derechach Da'eu, like we explained and elaborated, and I say by extension because this is mitzvahs Hashem, and then there Maaseh Hashem, and then there's Masecha, the things which we do as human beings, eat, drink, etc., etc. And we do that l'shem shamayim, for the godly sake and for a godly purpose. B'chol derechecha da'eu, in all our ways. Like it says in the pasuk, we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Rambam himself elaborates on this in his famous chapters in Hilchos Deis, that even in B'chol derechecha, in our ways, we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that is the way that we fulfill this our mandate, making HaKadosh Baruch Hu a dira, a dwelling place. Yet the Alter Rebbe says, first and foremost, or together with that, or when we won't think about, we truly think about the notion of dira b'tachteinim, is that we really bring and introduce to ourselves the reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this tachteinim, in this physical world. So not only by extension of what we do, what we speak, what we think, but that recognition, that profound recognition of Eined Milvade, of a human being sitting well anchored and as a human being, meaning to say not divested from his not neshama divested of guf, but even in neshama as it invests in the body, meaning to say the person is able to, because his nefesh, his neshama, is invested in a body, and from the perspective of guf, from the perspective of the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul, and the body, which is in Elam Haza, has an understanding and a tfisa. It has a comprehension and a grasp on everything which exists in Elam Haza, because that's where the body is, and that's where the nefesh bahamis is, the nefesh, which is mechaya, the guf, the nefesh which vitalizes the body, and everything is associated with guf, can appreciate. This is what we deal with throughout the entire day. For example, a person is involved in parnasa, so the elam hazeh and everything which is associated with elam hazeh, or this which is connected to him, trying to bring his livelihood in the particular style that he does. He doesn't just do it robotically. He has a tfisa. He has an understanding, because these are inyanim. These are ideas of elam hazeh itself, which he connects to. And in order for him, for example, just as an example, for him to make a parnasa, it's not something that he just guesses. It's something that he has a tfisa, a grasp. If it's his computer, or if it's a particular idea through which he developed, this is something which he tries more and more to be teifis, which means to comprehend, to have an understanding, and a comprehensive understanding in all that he does. So this same human being, the same yid, in a similar way, can have a clear appreciation on the notion of Eined Milvade, the notion of Hashem Echad, the oneness of Hashem, not as something abstract, but as something which he clearly appreciates, similarly clearly appreciates, that is vast, that is grand, and that is the purpose. Adira batachtenim, that Hashem feels comfortable in this world, that our connection to Hashem is not just that Hashem remains something transcendent, remains something abstract. That's not dira batachtenim. That is, it's not a dira. It means to say he doesn't feel comfortable here. However, when it becomes clear, in starting from the cognitive faculties of man, mean to say, like he understands and has a tfisa, grasp, and an appreciation, and anything else within Elam Hazeh, in the same way he's able truly, again, we're not screaming, someone's shuckling and screaming Hashem Echad, we're talking about that inner conviction that ha'aretz b'chol asher Allah, shamayim v'ha'aretz b'chol asher Allah, heaven and earth, and everything it contains is merely an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or more than that. It truly is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like we mentioned time and again, the difference of Keil Olam, Keil Ha'olam, and Keil Olam. While Keil Ha'olam says that the world is in a separate entity and Hashem is in charge, right away you're saying that there's, on the outset, there's a disconnect, this creator, creation, which all will always remain, but the definition of creation would be a separate entity of the creator, and Hashem is in charge of that creation, which is one message. Yet Keil Olam, not Keil Ha'olam, Keil Olam, like it says in the pasuk, that Olam itself is a part of this Keil, and a human being could have clarity on that matter, and that is Dir B'Tachtein, which means Hashem and Olam are not something which are separate and removed, and many times distantly removed, but in one could, and quite on the contrary, it's a dira, meaning to say he becomes one with the tachtenim, because the tachtein, the odom tachtein, the way he's found well anchored into elam hazeh tachtein, to this physical world, can understand, can have appreciation of elokus, of godliness. That is what it's all about. V'zeh kol ha'odom. And again, I'm saying a bit just in brief what we have learned till now in the last few classes, but everybody is welcome to see it in detail, in depth, on this very website in the previous classes, or as we mentioned again and again, it's just a worthwhile website. If someone wants to follow these classes, or generally the classes on Tanya, it's the tanyaonline.com, which you have the ability to tap into easily access the previous classes, and again, namely, that one could follow the classes with the text, and again, easily follow the classes with the text. So this is again the message of Dira Batachtenim, and the Alter Rebbe in this spirit brings which Chavakuk Hanavi said that the pasuk of Tzadik Be'emunose Yichya, that the righteous with his emunah, with his belief, Yichya, does live. So Chas v'Shalom is not, doesn't mean that a person just, like he says, that the entire Torah, he encapsulates the entire Torah, and he says the message of Tzadik B'Emunah Yichya says that ultimately it's just the emunah, it's just all 613 mitzvahs are all about one mitzvah, which is Emunah Levada. They believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, solely they believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chas v'shalom, his message was not drop the other mitzvahs and get the message, which is just about believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No need to even negate, but rather the message is that tzaddik be'emunah, with this emunah, understanding and comprehend and having a clarity and a comprehensive understanding and conviction of the notion of Hashem Echad, of the notion of Emunah b'Hashem Echad, that is Yichya, that will vitalize and reinvigorate our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu via all mitzvahs. This is the tzaddik rak mitzvah achas, that will lead to Yichya, that he'll be able to live, meaning to say that he'll be able to rise, his soul will be able to rise over anything which would prevent him in actually fulfilling all the 613 mitzvahs, mi bayis mi bachutz, from the inner abstract, inner challenges and inner limitations which exist within us as human beings. We will easily be able to overcome, because there is clarity in our whole shtel. There's clarity in the basis, in the premise, in the yesod, in the foundation, and therefore it's always easy to build the building of Torah mitzvahs without any challenges. Umi bachutz, umichutz, of challenges and obstacles will come our way, not from within but from without. People mocking, like the famous very beginning of Shulchan Aruch, Yehuda ben Teimer, Az kanomer, kal kari, kal kenesher, gibir kari, and so on and so forth, because Rotz Katzvi, because as the Alter Rebbe points out, the Al Yevish or rather, as the Bali Shulchan Aruch, rather, including the Alter Rebbe himself and his Shulchan Aruch, Al Yevish and one should not be ashamed of those who mock him, which is a classic mi bachutz, a challenge and obstacle. Sometimes someone starts serving a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he overcame his inner challenges, or challenges coming from his own nefesh abahamis, his own goof, and so on. But yet there's challenges mi bachutz, and which is classically expressed in the Al Yevish or the Maligim, rather, those who mock, those who are learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and so on. And Al Yevish, he's able to stand with firm determination in his Avodas Hashem, based on his firm conviction of this Hashem Echad. So he's able to yichya, to elevate himself, to start living again, meaning to say, to as Lashon of the Alter Rebbe, tis'ale nafshi l'mayla, that his nefesh will ascend on high, and everything which prevents him from fulfilling Torah mitzvahs, again, on that inner conviction. It's not about saying it, screaming it, and so on, but that inner conviction of Hashem Echad, of the oneness of HaKadosh. And again, Hashem Echad, the way it's Kel Olam, not Kel HaOlam, the notion of Ein Milvadei. So here the Alter Rebbe continues and says, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakel niyeh bidvari. So here the Alter Rebbe continues and says, Zeu shov Omar b'munasa yichya. Yichya dai kekitchias hamesim, like the resurrection of the dead. He chose the word yichya, or the pasuk chooses the word yichya, based on Chavakuk's message, that similar to, because it's similar to the Tchias Hamesim, Yichya Tchias Hamesim, which is the resurrection, or the revival of the dead. What does that mean? That just like somebody could be in his Avodas Hashem, because of these mainim, those who disturb, and this which brings challenges to our Avodas Hashem, from bayis, inward challenges, or challenges because of our inward human state, and then mibachutz, from the outward. The person's Avodah could literally be in a state of mace, in a state of dead. It means to say he doesn't have any vigor, nor vitality, nor passion to his Avodah. But with this message of the Emunah, and be'emunah, and again, namely the Alter Rebbe, with his beautiful metaphors and parables in this very perik, fundamental, yesodistic, fundamental parables, famously known, as the Alter Rebbe mentions in quite a few times, but he introduces one earlier in Tanya, but repeats it so clearly in Lamed Gimel. This becomes a yesod, this becomes essential in our, as human beings, true comprehensive understanding. And Hashem Echad introduces in this chapter, as well as a famous mashal in Chassidus, which I'll tell you about the first time, as the second one. The first time introduces in this chapter was where a man is able to have clarity. This Hashem Echad, this will Yichya will in his own personal experience will be like Tchias HaMesim. He'll be able to ascend from all the mainim, all this which prevents him to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and again he will immediately adapt vigor and this vitality and this passion which is associated with his Avodas Hashem as a result. So he says, Kach Kitchias HaMesim Derech Moshe, Kach Tich, in the same way, Kach Tich Yenafshe, his soul will revitalize and resurrect the Simcha Rabbazu with this great joy. He, in this great joy, the Alter Rebbe says, Simcha Gvul Kvulam Chupelas. This is a double and quadruple joy. What is this? Why is it a double and quadruple joy? Additional to the joy of the soul, which intellectualizes and has a clear perception. In the closeness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu lives together with him. As we mentioned again, this is the Alter Rebbe, the culmination of the two mishalim which the Alter Rebbe gives, and ultimately the way this becomes real in the mind of the human being again, has of the kurva of that closeness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu becomes lives and becomes one. And Dirasin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu living together with the Yid, more so man would rejoice with a double joy, the simchas Hashem v'goydel nachas ruach l'fanav, and the joy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the great satisfaction HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, b'emunah zu, with this faith, that there's this submission and subordinance of the spirit of impurity, as darkness transforms into light, which is the darkness of impurity which exists in this physical and crass world, which obscure and cover up on the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ades Kate, to the time when Mashiach comes. Like it says, Kate Sam Lacheshech, that it literally means the end will be brought to darkness, but this is referring to the Yemei Mashiach, which is known as the Ket, the end of times. So the Ket, the end of times, some will finally bring an end, Lacheshech, to darkness. Dahainu Es Kate Sayamin, Sheyaver Rachatuma, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the time of Mashiach will come, that the impure forces will be completely obliterated and removed min ha'aretz from the land. And the godly honor will be revealed. The physical flesh will together see HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kamishas Bar L'Kam, like it can explain further, which Alter Rebbe is over here saying that till that time comes when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will completely remove the spirit of impurity, and consequently the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be revealed, and not only eye will be able to see, not only the eye, the physical eye, will be able to see God and experience godliness, but more so, even the physical flesh will be able to see, which means be able to identify with the Hashem Echad. But that is when Mashiach will come. In the meantime, there is Ruach HaTum. And again, the Rebbe is bringing this message, that the whole reason why we don't see the emes Hashem La'elam. And again, what is the emes? That not that Eilam is a separate entity, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge of Eilam, which that itself should be Eilam that itself should be a reason for Eilam, the world identifying with the Hashem Echad, with the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But more than that, and that itself is on the surface not happening. When one person interacts and engages with Eilam, with the world, he's dealing with on the outset at least, or initially without him using his pondering on the emes the way it truly is. The world does not demonstrate, does not align itself with Hashem Echad. And this world does not demonstrate the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on its own. Quite on the contrary, it seems to obscure the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but even with the message with the Kel Ha'olam, namely when the message is Kel Olam. The world itself is part of Hashem, so that the world should on its own scream and protest loudly the Hashem Echad, because it isn't even an entity on its own. It's a mere extension. It's part of the Hashem Echad. So why isn't the world demonstrating, protesting loudly the Hashem Echad? Answer: because there's the Ruach HaTumah, the spirit of impurity, which covers up, is Mailam Master, which this is the word Olam itself. This is the meaning of Olam. Olam Melashon Helam Behester, because the world itself covers up and obscures the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the emes, which is enormous galus over here. The Olam itself is Elokus, yet you look at the Olam, it demonstrates everything else other than Elokus. Go away from God. The world itself, distance a person from Elokus. Engage with me, and the more you'll invest and indulge in Olam, in what I have to offer, you're removing yourself from Hashem. And what is Hashem? He's not someone, he's just Bashamayim Imal. You're removing yourself from the Hashem, which is the very texture of Olam, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yet the world itself tells a person, distance yourself from who I really am, or what I'm all about. Hashem Echad. And that is a galus she'ein kedugmasei. On the outset, say she'ein kedugmasei, mean to say, because this is the core of galus. The core of galus is that the Olam itself, which is a mere extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, does not demonstrate Elokus, does not demonstrate godliness. And quite on the contrary, it demonstrates everything else of godliness. Why is it so? Because because of the Ruach HaTumah. Because there is impurity in this world. Where does impurity come from? Such a pure, innocent world which is created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu? As we know, chatoim, sins, camouflage, and not only camouflage but obscure true realities. Starting from this is what transpired when the grave sin of Chet Tzadas, the tree of knowledge, was committed. That the world plunged into darkness and to this inferiority, which when we say something plunged or something fell from what? Fell from the emes, the way it truly is, from the experience of Hashem Echad. It was even expressed in Adam and Chava, even paying attention to something that on the ground in reality was exactly the same before they sinned, but after they sinned they paid attention to it. They started realizing, and their mind was introduced to totally new realities which physically did not change from the previous state, but in their mind, in their conscious mind, everything changed. They were ashamed of the way they were. And why were they ashamed? And the answer is because before that everything was godly, every reality was godly, and the body didn't need to be covered. Like someone doesn't need to cover their hands. The hand is a hand. Which do you do a mitzvah with your hand? You could put on tefillin with your hand. But later, after the Chet, the world distanced itself from its own emes, which is the emes Hashem. And unfortunately, we're kind of in therapy from Chet Tzadas. Because of the state, the Maimed Matzah, the state of the Olam, how it dropped in its connection, in its identifying with its own true reality, with the emes Hashem, how it distanced itself from that identifying with the emes Hashem. And then Chatei Ha'egel, for example. But it's not only those grand sins. Every sin which has ever been done in this physical world by any human being, particularly by the Yid, brings in more and more tumah into this world. So the world is a world that is camouflaged or covered or obscured with the Ruach HaTumah, and doesn't demonstrate its own emes, which is the emes Hashem. So when Mashiach will come, this is what is going to happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is Ruach HaTumah Avir Minaretz. I'm going to remove and obliterate the spirit of impurity which is this is the kates, I mean, when Mashiach will come. So what is going to happen when Hashem will remove the Ruach HaTumah? There's nothing new has to happen. Once you remove the Ruach HaTumah, which is the obstacle to the recognition of the Emes Hashem, which is the Olam recognizing the one is the Einid Bavadei, the Hashem Echad, automatically the world realizes what the truth really is. So this is going to happen in a grand scale when Mashiach will come. That the world, the notion of Einid Bavadei will be automatically felt and realized by every single human being and every single creature, every single item in this world, like we say in the davening of Rosh Hashanah. Everything will realize what's the shaila. You take away the obstacle, consequently you will see the emes. The Rebbe is saying over here, till that time when it's going to express itself and be manifest on this grand scale, every yid in his own personal life, despite there is to Ruach HaTumah, which can again camouflages the message of Hashem Echad, or camouflages that identity with Hashem Echad, but with a little hisbeinenus, a little pondering and meditating in the above, and he comes to that recognition, and therefore at that point, this becomes the hishapcha chashechel neheda, darkness is immediately transformed into light. Despite there exists Ruach HaTumah, but he could creep out of, at least personally, microcosmically, creep out of that Ruach HaTumah, meaning to say that he stands as a human being in a world which there exists still Tumah, which would be as a state prior to Mashiach's coming, prior to this Ruach HaTumah Avraham Minoret, HaKadosh Baruch Hu removing the spirit of impurity. In his personal life, he could transform the darkness into light, but his inner, again, by his pondering and meditating in Hashem Echad, he gains this true conviction of Hashem Echad. And again, we say this time and again, it's not only just verbally screaming Hashem Echad, it is calmly, tranquilly understanding, or mizbeinin, pondering and meditating on this, which the Alter Rebbe writes in this parak, and saying, aha, that's what it is. So in this Olam, which is about Cheshach, which is dark and obscure, and a world which covers up the message of Emes Hashem, he's able to have that clarity in the Emes Hashem. That is a complete kind of a miniature Geula, miniature redemption, which is transforming the Cheshach Linaheda into light. And that is grand, and that is great, and that's what Alter Rebbe says, Bikiflaim, the joy becomes a double joy, because the joy, the Chashecha is Nishapech, is completely transmuted into lightness. That a moment till he reaches that conviction, till he reaches that state of conviction, he is well in the dark. As we all know it, we could be doing even all the good things, doing mitzvahs and learning Torah and so on, but if we don't have that clarity of Hashem Echad, we are in the dark, because times change, circumstances have changed, and if you don't have the light open, it's like somebody which is in a very dark room, and then he has to come from one end to the other, or he has to do certain things in this room. So there's one person which is able to figure in his imagination, because it's pitch dark, is able to figure out step by step what is in this part of the room, or what is in this part of the room, and what is in the other part of the room. As he advances more and more into this dark room, there are more complications, but he understands exactly what is and where is everything, and so on. But then there's another person which it goes through the same room and the same experience, but the light is brightly shining, the light is on, and the difference is grand. It's not that the difference is grand because here you're not dealing with somebody who's able to take this, carefully take step by step because of his different understandings of the makeup and the setup of the room, but because it's dark, it's inevitable that at different times he will stumble. As opposed to someone who's in the same domain, in the same chamber, when the light is projecting, the light is brightly on, there is no problem at the outset. And that is what that is what the Alter Rebbe is referring to over here, that is hapcha chashechel nahira, meaning it's not only that he's able to conduct his life as a frumiyid. That's one idea. But he still can remain in the dark. Because in the end of the day, he is in a world which where darkness covers the land, and therefore there is ambiguity, states of ambiguity, and states of obscurity. and so on. And therefore, he is not yet, the joy is incomplete. He's doing what he has to do, speaking what he has to speak, thinking what he has to think, again in the context of mitzvah say, and staying away from things which he's not supposed to do, and again in action, in speech, and even in thought, but yet the light is off. He's still in a olam which is cheshech yichasa, as the darkness covers the land, as opposed to this individual, again, is able to introduce this personal redemption by having this true and profound conviction of Hashem Echad. Hence the light turns on in his own personal life, so the cheshech is again transformed into nehera, transmuted into light. The light comes on. Could you imagine the simcha which exists? Firstly, his ability to overcome any obstacle, challenge in his avodas Hashem, but more so his elation that he becomes simchas Hashem. His simcha becomes a simchas Hashem, or simchas Hashem becomes his simcha. His simcha, he is standing eye to eye with his Creator as he lives a life without any contradictions, no complexities, and no conflicts, because the light is powerfully on. What actually happened over here by the chet, and what happens, God forbid, by every sin, which is why sin is so, by definition, so grave. The first thing is, obviously, if Hashem says no, we don't do it, and if Hashem says do it, we just do it, because He is our Creator, and He is Malkeinu, He's Adonenu. We don't ask questions, understandably. The doctor tells a patient, take that medicine. We don't procrastinate. We just take it, even though he's just another human being, but he's so much more advanced in his knowledge. He's so much more advanced in knowledge of this very patient that he's dealing with, and therefore the patient submits himself to the demand or the suggestion or the command, let's say, of the doctor. So how much more so when it comes to Melech Malcham Lechem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is not exactly the meaning of the pasuk. He says that we obviously do it. It comes to being through us, and we have the schus, the merit, to be connected to Him through Torah mitzvahs. That's the first thing, obviously. Kabbalah Sel Machal Shamayim, we accept the yoke of heaven, but when we say the gravity of an Aveda, the gravity of an Aveda is additional to Chas Rachman al-Islam, rebelling in the Melech Malcham Lechem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rebelling in the King of all kings, Hashem. But every Aveda one does, because Aveda is associated with impurity. The sin itself is associated with impurity. So when you engage your, God forbid, in that sin, you're bringing impurity onto your own soul, and increasing impurity into a world, while HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants this world to be ultimately a Mokin Kodesh, a place, a divine place, a sanctified place, because He Himself wants Bimlei Otzmi, with Him, the way He is, B'chveide V'atzmi, be part of this Eilam, Dira B'tachteinim. He wants to be hosted, and more so, He wants to come live, He wants to be present in this world. It means to say that the world, to be a divine world and a sanctified world, and when we do Rachmanus Lan Aveda, we introduce just the diametrically opposite of divinity and sanctity by introducing impurity, tuma, impurity into this Eilam. So starting from our own nefesh, Rachman al-Islam, and it doesn't stop by our own nefesh. It is mispashet, it disseminates to the entire world, starting from where we are, our own place where we live, our chelke b'elam, our share and lot in this world, and throughout the entire world, Rachman al-Islam. Similar to what happened by the Chet Odom Eitzadas. By the Chet Eitzadas, what happened was that the entire world plunged. Means to say that so much tumah which was brought into this world, the world was so close at the time to the emes Hashem, the godly reality was so manifest in this very Eilam. Odom and Chava were not on a different planet. The way it was in this very Eilam Hazeh, which was very similar to the symbol, the way it's going to be when Mashiach is going to come. that there's going to be a Oretz, there's going to be a land, but Mimuli Kvei Deis Kol Ha'Oretz, the entire world will be filled with the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mol Ha'Oretz Deis Hashem, the whole world will be full of the knowledge of Hashem, Kamayim Li'al Mechasim, like the ultimate promise of when Mashiach's coming, that the world is going to be so full with the knowledge of Hashem, like water covers the ocean floor. Everything is going to be in tune with that reality. And that's the way it was by the time prior to the Chet of Eitz Hadas. And that's why it reflected they were not even cognizant of their own state, that they were not wearing any clothes. As one example, the world was a divine world. The world was a spiritual world. So on one hand, you had this paradox. You had this dichotomy, and a positive, this duality, this dichotomy, and that there was the fusion of the physical and the spiritual. The Gan Eden was in this Olam Hazeh, but yet it was fused. It was divine Olam, and it was a spiritual Olam, or it was a divine and sanctified Olam. God forbid, when Adam and Chava sinned, there was a rush of tumah to the entire world. The world looked different. I will even add, sometimes in our own life, when a person, God forbid, sins, the world looks different. His own world looks different prior to, God forbid, his sin and after his sin. And why so? Isn't he in the same physical world? The answer is he is in the same physical world, but he was able to see what he has, God forbid, accomplished through that sin. He's able to see that it's a total different state. And he's able to, the interesting thing is that in this very physical world, we have this kind of fluctuation that we are in our own conscious mind able to identify with it. That a person pursues spirituality, but again, not spirituality divested or removed from the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided is going to be spiritual and divine and sanctified. We can't choose our paths and say this is spiritual to me, because who decided? We could talk ourselves in, convince ourselves rather, many different ways, and many of the ways that we try to, as human beings, convince ourselves, sometimes are antithetical to what spirituality is all about. That's why we follow precisely the Shulchan Aruch, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu established what is divine, what is sanctified. And a person pursues and climbs a ladder of Avodas Hashem. He's in the same world, but everything about him can be different. And usually, and many times, we consciously identify with this difference. That I live in the same physical world as I lived a year ago before I came onto the path of Avodas Hashem, but I am different. Like Lashon, it says in the V'niyesa Ish Acher, we become a different world. We live in the same world, but we identify the world, Olam, in a very different lenses. Again, not only something and a concept which is abstract from us, but we can identify with it consciously. And God forbid, if we turn the direction to sin, we can identify. This is different than it was yesterday. Nothing has changed. The sun has come up and the sun has come down today and yesterday. But the world looks different because yesterday it was a more divine world, and today, or God forbid, because of my sin, starting from myself, my own world is different. That's what happened when Adam. That's what the Torah tells us of the state prior to the sin by Adam Rishon and Chava, and after the state of Adam, and after the state of sin with Adam Rishon and Chava. And the Torah itself contrasts the state prior to pre-Eit Chet Tzaddah state and post-Eit Tzaddah state for one reason. The Torah wants to say what really happened. Their physical state was the same, but they weren't conscious about it because the world itself was as a creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was similarly to God. It was divine and it was sanctified, a sanctified world. And that's what happens not only by grand sins like Chet Tzaddah, God forbid, by every sin. So this is the whole reason why there is this the oxymoron. On one hand, a world which we say it's Keleilam, and the other hand, why isn't the world demonstrating all that? Because there is tumah. And this is the greatest. This is what Mashiach is all about. This is why Mashiach's coming is so much is so grand, This is why the promise of Mashiach's coming is so grand. It's not just a detail, we're going to have this, and less a problem here, and less a problem. The light's going to open up. Because it's Ruach HaTumah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself will remove the Ruach HaTumah. What remains? You don't have to introduce something new, is the message here. The world is part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's Keil Olam. It's just the Tumah, the Ruach, the spirit of impurity is what obscures and camouflages that very message. When it's gone, the world automatically identifies with its own true being and essence, which is God. So the Yemesa Mashiach, which we so much anticipate, is grand. It's great. It's stupendous. It's not just like a little detail we fixed up. The light will open up. That's why it's a chakale. How can't we ask and anticipate and with the most profound bakashas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Mashiach should come? Because it's not a particular detail which will be corrected. The light will open up. Imagine somebody at muchatzach, he's crawling through a dark room, and every here and there he stumbles, not because there's something out in the room to get him. It's just simply dark. So the message is there, but it's obscured by the darkness, by the darkness which exists in that chamber, in that room. And all of a sudden, he knows there's a switch, which if he'd only find it, be able to find it, he'll be able to open it up, and all of a sudden everything will change. The room not only he'll stumble in this experience, but more so he could open up once the light opens up, he could see a room perhaps decorated with beautiful furniture, and the most expensive furniture. And he realizes he's living in the most delightful home he would ever imagine. For he's existing and he's standing in the most beautiful home, glorious home, that is beyond his imagination. Even though a moment ago he was just stumbling through this piece of furniture and that piece of furniture, falling here and falling there. But that is when that is the you. That is what's going to happen when Mashiach will come. Nothing new has to come into place. Hashem has to remove this Ruach HaTumah automatically. V'nigla kved Hashem, the honor of Hashem is revealed. V'ro kol basar yachdav, every flesh is able to see and identify God. And more so, again, the Lashon is not our neshamis will identify God. Ayin bi ayin yiru. The physical eye will be able to see and have clarity in Hashem Echad. And similarly, called basa, the pasuk emphasizes basa means the flesh will be able to identify the Hashem Echad, the oneness of Hashem, the message of Eined Movade. And again, and the reason is because nothing new has to come into being. The light just opens up. The cheshech is removed. What is Olam? Olam is Keil Olam. Olam is part of rather the Keil, based on again the expression of the pasuk Keil Olam. So this is again what happens in to the entire world. In other words, this is what happens on the grander scale. Mashiach will come, but the simcha over here is that a person is able to bring this miniature Mashiach, microcosmically experience Mashiach, not on the macro picture, but starting from the micro picture. Meaning to say that he's able to come with his own mind, with his own understanding, with his own comprehension to this Hashem Echad, to clarity in the message of Eined Movade. He is experiencing that miniature Geula. At the Cheshech, the light turned on is in his own life. There's nothing dark anymore. And if there's nothing dark anymore, wherever he is, there's no such a thing, well, in this community, I feel God. I'm away from my community, then things are different. There's nothing different. A person identifies Hashem Echad again. When the light is open, you're not going to say, well, when I'm sitting in the center of the room, I'm okay. I could be okay. I could not stumble. But what if I go to the corner where there's a few chairs and couches and so on and so forth? It seems to be so confusing. There I will stumble. There is no, once the light comes on, there's no the center of the room and behind the couches. It's all light and it's all bright. You're here, you're there, you're in the Jewish community, you're not in the Jewish community. The Olam itself is Keil. The light is on. And if you're able to put on the light in your own personal, within your own personal experience, in your conscious mind, could we think about a greater simcha? Could we think about a greater joy? Could we think about a true, genuine elation of soul? Here the Alter Rebbe continues, this is a befrat, particularly ba'artis evdikachavim, sha'aviram tamei u'malak klipos v'siter achra, particularly in the lands of Goyim. And this is very much identifiable with this, or synonymous with this, which we just mentioned a moment ago. That it's not only a place which I experience more the Jewish community, the shul, the Jewish, the yeshiva, the cheder, and so on and so forth, but particularly in the lands of Gentiles, which means in places which Yiddishkeit is not developed. And we go sometimes to places in this physical world, many times, especially in generation like today, we find ourselves traveling in different areas which you come out there and you don't see any of you don't see on the outset, you don't experience anything which you experience back home. As we explained again in the metaphor which we explained, in the center of the room I could walk around freely, but when it comes to certain corners, there's these different tables or couches or chairs, I stumble, I fall, and so on and so forth. And in the nimshul is that we open up, we come to places, or there's dealing with the artzes of the Gelulim itself, in other words, in these countries and lands, which the aviram, which the ambiance, the air is tamei, is impure. And it is full of klipos in sitra achra, and the truth of the matter is, because no Yiddishkeit is performed there is an extra dosage of impurity, of klipa. The darkness is intense in these places, because people do not serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe the Jew, maybe even Lahavdil, the non-Jew, that they live a life not identifying with the emes of Hashem Echad. And there is no Yidden, there's no Yiddishkeit, there's no performance of Torah mitzvahs, so the darkness is greater and it is intense, and therefore it is more full with in the impurity. And when you come to that place, and to you, it's exactly in your conscious experience, in your conscious mind, to you it's exactly the same as the way you're back home, in your very frum the community, very frum and holy community. Let's use this again to contrast the olam of klipas and sitrach. If you are, to you, if you, in your conscious mind, in your conscious experience, it's exactly the same, because you know in the end of the day this is a world which is ultimately an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is there any greater joy than that? The ein simcha lefan of Yisbarich. So the lashon over here is you're able to look at that very place in the same way that you look at Olam, you look at the world, and you look at society in back home, meaning to say in the place where there is less intensity of the spirit of impurity. So this becomes additionally special, because it's not only that you're able to identify HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Gashmis Eilam, in the physicality of this world, but more so even in Artzes, even in lands where the Cheshech, where the darkness is indeed more intense, but to you it's all the same, because the light is on. You clearly came to that conclusion, or you have clarity and conviction in the notion of Hashem Echad, Ein Eid Milvade, the light is on. As we mentioned again in the example we gave, if the light is on, it is no difference of what part of the room you are. It may be in the most condensed, a room which is condensed with furniture, again, not leaving any space for you. You try to connect the mashal and imshal together. When the light is on, there's no reasons for you to stumble in any part of the room. And there's no greater joy to HaKadosh Baruch Hu like the light which comes from the darkness. And here the Alter Rebbe is adding, not only it's the same, but here the Alter Rebbe is saying that's the kfulam chupelis. That's what the Alter Rebbe added before this precise expression of a double and a quadruple type of simcha, because it's not only that you're remaining, to you it's exactly the same wherever you are, because again the light is on by you, but more so HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a very special tainug, a very special pleasure, of when darkness itself is transformed into light, which means that there's a certain, sometimes they challenge certain people, find the light, find the switch. And understandably, and again, we could also appreciate it that in different they put a person through a maze and say, find your way, find the light, or find your way out, and that you shouldn't be stuck in this maze. And then when he comes out, everybody cheers. So what do you need the maze in the first place? Just leave open the maze and make sure that there's a clear passage and there's clarity from the beginning of the path to the end. But then there's no kunst. There's nothing. There's nothing particularly special, or the person's able to go from point A to point B. But when there's a maze and it becomes difficult, and yet he's able to come through this from point A to the end and come out quickly, meant to say that despite that there was all these different barriers and limitations in his path, but he's able to triumph and overcome that. There's a special simcha, and again we all cheer him. Or you tell a person, get into this room, it's pitch dark, find the switch. So if it's so important the light should be on, open the light on the outset. No, but then there's no kunst, there's no tiny, there's nothing special to that. Is when the person is put into this dark domain and he is able on his own to find the switch. That is something which is special. And it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has this tainug when we ourselves in this very dark world finds the switch. So it's not only that to us there is clarity with this message of Hashem Echad, hence there is no difference wherever we are, we're able, and again, we are physically and circumstantially. To us, the Hashem Echad shines in our conscious mind, that itself is a great simcha, but more than that, there's a special timing, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, a special pleasure, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu receives and identifies with when we are able to find the switch. That despite that we're put into a world with all these obstacles and challenges, and we are able to, with our own mind, understand, and again, not only verbally proclaim the Hashem Echad, but have a comprehensive understanding of Hashem Echad. That is additional, special to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the Yisr and Arieh, the light came as a result and a follow-up, or and after much toil, that we ourselves on our own found the switch from a state of darkness. That is an extra dosage, extra special simcha by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, to finish the chapter, this is what the Pasuk Shenema, this is what it says, Yismach Yisrael B'Eisav, that again, which it says in Tehillim, towards the end, the last chapters, which we say every single day in davening, in Sukkot Zimra, that the Yid rejoices with his Creator. Pirush, Shekol Mishum Zeri Yisrael, that everyone which is a descendant of Israel, these ought to rejoice with the joy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem's joy, how He elates, how He rejoices of Him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, having a dira, successful in His ambition, in His plan, in His ultimate goal of Him becoming comfortable, b'tachteinim, having a dira, dwelling place in this physical world. And we say b'tachteinim is asiyah gashmis mamash, in this very physical, again, not ba'olyenim, not in the spiritual, but in the physical, in this tachtein, she'en tachten lamatemena, which is elam hazeh gashmi, in this very physical world, which is again asiyah gashmis mamash, which is again a world which is comprised, solely comprised from Gashmis, from the physical. And that's what it says, Yismach Yisrael B'Eisav. That literally means that the Jew rejoices B'Eisav with his Maker. But the Alter Rebbe teaches so beautifully over here, Yismach Yisrael B'Eisav, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rejoices in Eisav and Asiyah Gashmis. Where Eisav, which means we are create, Eisav is Hashem being our maker. But he uses precisely the word Eisav, defining HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Him being our maker, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu at that point wants a dira in this physical world, in Elam Hazeh Gashmis, in Elam HaMaisa, in this very physical world. And this is what we rejoice, that every single Yid, Yesh Lo Yismeach, you rejoice b'simchas Hashem, with the joy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted a dira in Elam Hazeh Gashmi, in the Elam HaMaisa. This is what the pasuk says, Ba'isav, which is Lashon Rabin, which is a plural expression. Which this is this very physical world, which is full with impurity. Again, we've mentioned many times the reason why impurity has this term of klipis v'sitra achra, but this is a world which is mole of it, is full of impurity. But that's why it's called Rishus Harabim, it's called the public domain and the mountains of separation. Because from the perspective of Hashem Echad, there is no plurality. It's all about the singular message of a singular God. But when a world which does not demonstrate that singularity, that oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so this is why this becomes a Torah, a mountain of separation. Mountain of separation means there is multiplicity, a world which does not carry that message of Hashem Echad, the message of oneness, but rather, quite on the contrary, the message of plurality, which is the antithesis of Hashem Echad. But that is the world, what it looks like prior to the Yid introducing the Hashem Echad in this Eilam. So it's Malav Kippur Tzitr. That's why it's called again Ba'Isav in a plural expression, because this is a Rishus HaRabim. It becomes the public domain as opposed to Rishus HaYachid, which is Yechidish Shalaylam, a domain to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And prior to that, again, prior to HaKadosh, the world becoming a Rishus, a domain associated with Hashem Echad, meaning, in other words, the Rishus HaYachid. Prior to that, it's a Rishus HaRabim. And then again, multiplicity, separation. And again, Turi calls it Turi, the fruit of the mountains, and the simple reason is because Pirud, separation of Hashem Echad, becomes namely of the recognition, one's self-recognition, or identifying the world as a separate entity. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is similar to a mountain, which it says, "Look at me. It's about me. It's about I stand out." The I is this which primarily contradicts this, or does not allow the Hashem Echad to penetrate and to enter, and therefore it's called Turah, which the objective of this Turah, of these mountains, is to bring Pirud, separate. To bring Pirud means, say, to make a world which in essence is part of the Hashem Echad, make it Parud, make it separate from Hashem Echad. And again, that's synonyms, which Rishus HaRabim, it's a world which is about Rabim, the many, as opposed to the one. The Ishapchem and Neheir, so this world is transformed into life, and and become a private domain, to the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be'emunazu, in and with this very faith, this very recognition, and this very in his inner conviction of the Ein Mavade, this Hashem Echad. Hence the world becomes a Rishus HaYachid. Have a wonderful night.